Today is a great day to be alive and a fine time to be part of the one and only ABAC. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Chasen. I am Director of Public Relations Emeritus at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. I came here in 1979 as the Director of Public Relations and retired in 2011. Came back part-time as Director of Public Relations Emeritus, and lo and behold, on this blue sky Tuesday, I'm still here and doing fun things like giving this tour for you folks. And today you're going to learn a lot about ABAC, you're going to learn a lot about Tift Hall, and hopefully evoke some questions from you. And remember, any of the boards, the history boards that we use today, you'll be able to use those as background material for your speeches. So hopefully there will be a lot of ideas that you can generate, and you can learn more about ABAC and the great place that you've chosen. First of all, thank you for choosing ABAC. I think you've made a fantastic choice. This is one of 3 original buildings on the campus. It's called Tift Hall. It's named after Henry Harding Tift. Henry Harding Tift, and we'll move over to this board over here. So you see the eastern seaboard here, and Mystic, Georgia. Are you familiar with Mystic, Georgia? Very small town, about 12 miles from here, over in Irwin County. It's named for Mystic, Connecticut. Now they were in the shipbuilding business, the Tift family. You see some of the examples of their ships and the family here out on the ocean, that sort of thing. Tifton was founded by Henry Harding Tift. Now, his uncle Nelson Tift founded Albany, Georgia. So, and he had another relative, Asa Tift. Henry's uncle and Nelson's brother was a notable ship's architect and a captain also from Connecticut. He had a shipwreck salvaging business all the way down in Key West, Florida. Some of you have probably been to Key West and you've seen the Hemingway house with the 6-toed cats and that sort of thing. Well, he actually lived in Hemingway house, for Ernest Hemingway lived in that particular house down in Key West. So the Tift family, very important to Tifton, Georgia, very important to Key West, Florida, very important to what happened here in South Georgia, both in Albany and in Tifton. He had a lot of different businesses. You'll see some of these businesses here. And one of those was a sawmill. He started it all as a sawmill. And he had a lot of different businesses. You'll see here, this is his actual ledger from his syrup making business in 1922. So Captain Tift was quite an entrepreneur, and his wife Bessie Tift was also very active in the community. Some of you have been on I-475 there and you've seen what was formerly Tift College, and that was named after Bessie Tift. Now it's the Tift College office buildings for the state of Georgia. They're on the way to Atlanta outside of Macon. So Bessie Tift was quite an extraordinary individual in her own right. And Henry Harding Tift, of course, he was responsible for the growth of Tifton, the start of Tifton. This building is named for him. One of 3 original buildings on this campus, and the buildings on each side, Herring Hall and Lewis Hall, were also 2 of the 3 original buildings. When it started, back in 1908, ABAC was then called, and we'll go through this a little bit later, 2nd District Agricultural and Mechanical School. On February 20th, 1908, some 20-odd students walked up those steps, or steps similar to that, into this building. This was the classroom building, this was the office building, this was the faculty office building. Everything was right here in this building. The buildings on either side were dormitories. Students could stay. Now, what was the 2nd District Agricultural and Mechanical School? August 18th, 1906, Georgia's Public Law 448 established a state-run A&M school, agricultural and mechanical school, in each of Georgia's 12 congressional districts. Well, towns throughout South Georgia bid on having that school where it would be in this area. Tifton actually had to bid against Albany, Camilla, Pelham, and Ashburn. Now when I say bid, I actually mean bid. The more money you gave, the more land you gave, the more free power you gave, well then there's a good chance you would get that bid. It came down to Tifton and Pelham. And on the 11th ballot, Tifton won the right to the 2nd District A&M school. An area high school for all the folks in the 2nd District. Now, how much did that mean to Tifton? Well, it meant quite a bit. Captain Tift himself a final bid of $36,400 in cash, 315 acres of land. The land we're on right now, original 315 acres. Remember now, this is all the way back in 1906. $4,500 worth of timber, free lights and water for a period of time. And next day, the local newspaper, the Tifton Gazette, had this headline: "The Hallelujah Day has come. Tifton lands the A&M school." They knew, the people of the community knew what an impact it was going to have on Tifton and Tift County. Now, what kind of impact does it have today? ABAC, the economic impact of ABAC on South Georgia is now about $500 million a year. That's $500 million a year, the economic impact. Well, Mike, how does that happen? Well, it's your tuition. It's the money you spend buying gasoline, buying pizzas, buying clothes, anything in this area. You came to this area because ABAC is here. Now, back in 1906, they knew it was going to have an impact, but not the tremendous impact that 4,000 students at ABAC have on this area today. It was an area high school. This building was here. The two buildings adjacent were here, but it was mainly for guys. Now, there were some women here, but they were not allowed to board at that particular time. That changed over the years. But the three buildings started at area high school, and we'll explore the other names of ABAC as we go into the history room in just a moment. So, well, Mike, how did it get to be Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College? Well, I'm going to get to that in just a second. This building and the two buildings on each side of it were built for $51,927 all the way back. Here's the bid back in February 1st, and that was all the way back there in 1907. $50,000. We refinished all three buildings back in 2012. The price, $15 million to refinish all the buildings. They were still here, basically outside, but we refinished all the buildings for about $15 million. There you go, part of the economic impact. Now, who was Abraham Baldwin? Let's find out. Abraham Baldwin was actually a very intelligent young man. Even when he was 14 years old, he entered Yale College. Going to Yale when he was 14, quite an accomplishment there. During the Revolutionary War, he was the chaplain for George Washington. Yeah, the George Washington. Abraham Baldwin, very important figure. Now, he was a big part of Washington's campaign. Of course, as you know, the United States of America won the Revolutionary War, gained our independence from the Crown, Great Britain, and Abraham Baldwin was a part of that, serving on George Washington's staff. Now, down in Georgia, the governor of Georgia said, hey, I know Abraham Baldwin. I want to get him down here and establish a state-run system of higher education and all the schools in Georgia. Abraham Baldwin, very intelligent. So he came down to Georgia and helped establish a system of colleges and universities in the state. Remember now, ABAC, this was back in the 1700s. ABAC was not even an afterthought in anybody's mind at that particular time, but Abraham Baldwin helped set that up. That's why we call him an architect for education, Abraham Baldwin. This is a bust of Abraham Baldwin himself. It started out as a 500-pound piece of Georgia marble, okay? And then carved it down, a remarkable likeness. This is an 800-pound piece of Georgia marble. So you got, well, 1,200, 1,300 pounds of Georgia marble right here, and a bust of Abraham Baldwin. You see a similar bust on the other side of Captain Tift. Okay? So these are historic right here. Now, Abraham Baldwin was much more than just the architect for education. The United States Constitution, and here it is right here, Abraham Baldwin and William Few were the only Georgia delegates who actually signed the U.S. Constitution. You know about the Constitution? Yeah, July 4, 1776. No, that wasn't the Constitution. That was the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, the Constitution was later. It was signed in Constitution Hall in Philadelphia. Some of you have probably been to Philadelphia. I've been there. I've seen Constitution Hall. Abraham Baldwin, one of only 2 Georgia signers of the United States Constitution. There were other delegates there, but they had left Philadelphia before the document was ever signed. So Abraham Baldwin occupies a prominent place in Georgia history. Also, Abraham Baldwin was the first president of the University of Georgia. Now, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, real good. Except there wasn't a University of Georgia there. He helped plan it out, getting the land and that sort of thing. He left before any students actually attended the University of Georgia. There's a statue, if you've ever been on the Athens campus of UGA, a statue of Abraham Baldwin up there. And here's a picture of that statue right there. Abraham Baldwin, very important figure in the history of Georgia. Now, did he know anything about ABAC? Nah, man, he'd already passed away before ABAC came along. But he was a United States Senator. He served in the United States House of Representatives. So he's a great representative of the fantastic state of Georgia. Georgia was one of the 13 original colonies. So he was right there along with all the others to help make Georgia the great place that it is today. It was quite a sight, I tell you, to take that huge place of Georgia marble and carve it down and make them look as lifelike as they did. Fantastic job by Randy Anthony from Fitzgerald, Georgia. Now, what is this room all about? This is the George T. Smith Parlor. How many of you ever heard of George T. Smith? Nobody. Nobody's ever heard of George T. Smith. Maybe the most popular, maybe the most famous ABAC alumnus. George T. Smith was born, and you can look on this board right behind the big plant right over here. George T. Smith was born in Hopeful, Georgia. Hopeful, little town over in Mitchell County, still over there near Camilla, Georgia. George T. Smith had a grand idea. He was going to be the best student in school, and he was until the 8th grade. And then he had another idea. I'm going to drop out of school. I'm tired of going to school. So he told his dad he's going to drop out, and his dad said, well, I tell you, you can drop out, but you're going to be plowing those mules in the back 40 tomorrow. He said, okay, plowing mules sounds not too hard. So for the next 5 years, George T. Smith, a dropout in the 8th grade, was behind the plow. And finally, bing, the light bulb came on, and George T. said, I don't want to plow mules anymore. I'm going to go back to school. So he went back to Hopeful High School over in Mitchell County, and he graduated when he was 21 years old, and he was the valedictorian, and also the oldest person in his graduating class. Graduated, had his degree, 21 years old, goes to Middle Georgia College for 1 quarter, wanted to play football. Well, the school never had football, so he was not that successful on the football team. So he came to ABAC and changed history forever. Let's look at this board right over here. He wanted to run for the SGA president, student body president at ABAC. So at that time, there were only 440 students at ABAC, and he and his buddies got to know all of them. So they voted him in as president of the student body. That was his first entry into politics. And boy, did it pave the way for a career that unsurpassed. George T. Smith. So he became president of the student body. He was voted most popular, most intellectual by his peers. He was in a lot of clubs. George T. Smith was on his way to stardom. After ABAC, he served in the United States Navy in 1940, and he was involved with the Navy. Here's a copy of his journal on Christmas Day when he was serving in World War II in the Navy. He's got some great, great history here about George T. Smith. I knew George T. Smith, and you're going to see over here a little bit later on, you can see our picture here. George T. Smith's 90th birthday. We were up there in the office of Carl Sanders, Melvin Merrill, former President David Bridges, former governor, and you're going to see all the pictures here, former Governor Roy Barnes. You're going to see George T. Smith in the middle, former Governor Carl Sanders, and myself back in 1990, and that was George T. Smith's 90th birthday party up in we were high atop Atlanta. In fact, from Carl Sanders' office, you could actually see the Georgia Tech football field, quite a view there. So a couple of former governors and George T. Smith. And what was George T. Smith's involvement in all this? Well, let's look. When he got out of the Navy, he went to the University of Georgia Law School, then he came all the way back to Cairo, Georgia, where he was the Grady County State Court Solicitor. It was another political race. Then he went through, he is the only man, listen carefully now, he is the only man in the history of Georgia to win contested elections to all three branches of state government. He was Speaker of the House of Representatives, he was Lieutenant Governor, and he was also a Georgia Supreme Court Justice. All three branches of state government, the only man to win contested elections in the history of our great state, George T. Smith. And how did he get started? Right here at ABAC as president of the student body. Now, you're going to see some cartoons, you're going to see a lot of information here about George T. Smith. In 1974, he ran for governor of Georgia. Believe it or not, trying for the nomination, he was running against George Busbee, who also was an ABAC alumnus. Yeah, he was here in the 1940s. George Busbee's motto was a workhorse, not a show horse. George T. Smith was all about everything glitter and glamorous and that sort of thing, but George Busbee wanted to convince the people that he was a workhorse, not a show horse. When George Busbee won, George T. Smith said it was the only mistake he made in his political career. George T. Smith, great American, George Busbee, a great governor, and George T. Smith would have been a great governor as well. So you're going to look at all this. George T. Smith was a very interesting character, great friend of mine for a long time. And all the way over here, you'll see that George T., one of only two people to win the Distinguished Service Award at ABAC. The other was former ABAC President David Bridges upon his retirement just a few years ago. So both, David Bridges, George T. Smith, both ABAC alumni who really made a name for themselves with their careers. You're going to see the headline up here, 61 years of public service to the great state of Georgia, George T. Smith. And this is the George T. Smith Park. In every one of his offices through the years, George T., and you'll want to get a good close-up of this, with the glare it may be impossible, but it's a man plowing a couple of mules. George T. had it in all his offices, and you can see some of his nameplates here on this replica. It's one of his desks. He had this picture, man plowing the mules. He knew that the rest of his life, he never wanted to be at the south end of two northbound mules. George T. Smith, 61 years, serving the great state of Georgia. The only man to be in contested elections, to be in all three branches of state government. Great American, great friend, and a great ABAC alumnus, George T. Smith. All right, this is the Michael D. Chasen ABAC History Room. And I just happen to be Michael D. Chasen. How about that? You get it all done on a Tuesday. So, now what is this history room is all about? We wanted to establish a place where alumni could come in off the interstate or visit the college and do like a walking tour all their own and find out all about the college. It begins here with the 2nd District A&M School, 1908 to 1924. You're going to see you had a football team there. Here are the ladies in the domestic arts class in 1910. You see they're wearing the long dresses and the aprons and that sort of thing. A lot different than today. So a lot of things happened during those early years. A&M baseball team. So a lot of information here about the 2nd District A&M School. Remember, it's an area high school. Now, as you go around the room, we've got all kind of artifacts here from the college's years. And also, you can pull out any of these drawers, and you can see some information, some of the old annuals here. Lots of information about the college, so feel free to look around, open these drawers, maybe see something that, here's an old A&M School banner here. Lots of pictures about the old 2nd District A&M School, which remember now, these were high school students who were attending here at Tift Hall, Lewis Hall, and Herring Hall, the buildings on each side. Then they eventually added a few more buildings as well. 2nd District A&M School and area high school were, at first, the gentlemen were allowed to board. Now, we had our first graduates. I think it was 1911, somewhere in there, first graduates of A&M school. So it was a great time for people of South Georgia, which was primarily a rural area, very rural area at that time. Now, what happened next? In 1924, it went from an area high school to a college, a four-year college, from 1924 to 1929. All the students who stayed, and some came in from other places as well, became students at South Georgia A&M College. So this was the second name of ABAC, from 2nd District A&M School to South Georgia A&M College, 1924 to 1929. Here are some of the memorabilia here through the years, some of the sports memorabilia. Here's the first rodeo, first annual ABAC championship back in 1969 at basketball, bringing back basketball this year. 100th birthday of ABAC back in 1908. I got a great story about that in just a moment. The agriculturalist, a lot of information about the college, a nursing cape, some of the cheerleaders' costumes, lots of fun at ABAC when it was South Georgia A&M College. But wait, the college had another name. In 1929, the college changed its name again from South Georgia A&M College to the Georgia State College for Men, 1929 to 1933. Had a championship football team that actually beat the University of Miami 2 consecutive years in 1931 and 1932. Oh, Mike, you're just kidding. No, the University of Miami was beaten by the Georgia State College for Men. Here's an article from the Tifton Gazette right there about the game in 1931. Beat the University of Miami. How about that? The Hurricanes. Back in the 100th birthday of ABAC, 2008, I was Director of Public Relations, and one of our grounds folks came to me and said, hey, I just found this bottle on the front of the campus, and you see it outlined right here on the story, and it might be something, it might be trash. Well, he was digging up a dead tree on the front of the campus, and he brought the bottle to me over the Public Relations office and said, let's see what it is. Had a top on it, so I said, unscrewed the top on it, and pulled out 2 pieces of notebook paper. March 1922, those pieces of notebook paper had been in that bottle from 1922 until our groundsman uncovered it in 2008. It was the sophomore class. They had written their names on 2 pieces of notebook paper individually. As you look at those papers there, individually they had written their names, put them in a Heinz ketchup bottle, which was made of glass at that time, no glass ketchup bottles today. Put it in a hole, planted a tree on top of that hole, on top of that bottle, and lo and behold, the tree finally expired. We were digging it up, and there are the names in the bottle. We contacted the Heinz ketchup people and said, yeah, that's the kind of bottle we made in 1922. So all those years, it was underground right here on the front of the ABAC campus. To commemorate that, during the 100th birthday, everybody in Tift Hall wrote their names on a sheet of paper, put it in a Coke bottle, a glass Coke bottle, planted a new tree, but first we put in the Coke bottle with all our names on it and a little history of ABAC, and put the tree on top of the Coke bottle in 2008. So maybe you and your grandchildren can go back here 100 years from now, and you can dig up the Coke bottle and you can see what happened in the 100th birthday year of ABAC. Now, I still have grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Hey, I got to see the Heinz ketchup bottle. They come and say, yeah, that was my granddaddy's name. That was my grandmother's name, great-grandmother. She wrote it in, or he wrote it in 1922. Sounds like I made it up, but it actually happened. In 1933, the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia was formed. And they wanted a 2-year college in Tifton that specialized in agriculture and home economics and wildlife and forestry. So they changed the name of the Georgia State College for Men to Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. All right? The motto was a wholesome and satisfying life on the soil. The people of Tifton wanted a 4-year college. They had one since 1924, but they got a 2-year college, and people from all over the state started coming to ABAC. Dr. J.G. Woodruff was the first president of ABAC. Total of 99 students were enrolled that first year back in 1933. I actually talked to one of our alumni. They had a meeting, they had a little dining hall, and they had a meeting to decide the mascot. It came down to either bees, Baldwin bees, keep things buzzing, or the Golden Stallions. And the students, all 99 of them, voted for the Golden Stallions as the mascot. They looked at the colors of the college, and they decided, well, agriculture is green and growing, so we're going to get green. And they picked gold, green and gold are the colors of ABAC. They picked gold because of a jonquil, Jonquil, flower that grew on the campus. And it was yellowish gold in color, so they picked green and gold as the colors of ABAC, and Golden Stallions as the mascot of ABAC. And you can look at the history of ABAC on the ABAC website, and you can see I interviewed both the first male student and the first female student at ABAC. So that was something back in 1933. So, 33 passes, all of a sudden it's 40, and the Warriors come on. We got a new president. And after 1 year of Dr. Woodruff, Dr. George King came on as president. World War II was a tough time for ABAC. Not many students here. The enrollment had risen from the 99 of the first year to 350, but it dropped to 85 during World War II. What did those students do? Well, they helped raise crops for the war effort. They harvested crops and canned them and processed them, dehydrated, froze the food. They, in the fall, they had 15,000 cans of food for the war effort. So the students not only did they take classes, they assisted in the United States effort in World War II. Remember now, South Georgia, very rural at that time, to have classes for all the farmers and landowners. We had classes for everything from, here's a pasture management class, cotton, soybeans, corn, tobacco, all those had short courses. We had a continuing education program. Now, one of the men who came to that continuing education program was a name very familiar to Georgians. He was from Plains, Georgia, and his name? Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States. Jimmy Carter actually went to the Naval Academy, and he was going to have a career in the Navy, but he came back when his family needed him to run the peanut crop and be a farmer, and that's what he became. But he came to Tom Cordell's short course here at ABAC to learn more about how to raise peanuts in a better way. I talked to President Carter. He was here back in 2014 at a speech over in Howard Auditorium, and he said, I want to tell you, ABAC means the world to me because it really set me on the path that I needed to be on at that time in my life. So Jimmy Carter was actually a student at ABAC in one of the short courses from the continuing education program. Well, we go through the 50s and we get to the 60s and the 70s, and ABAC is growing like crazy, and all the way to tractor pulls and bachelor's degree in natural resource management. We were the first college in America to offer a bachelor's degree in rural studies in 2009. ABAC has a lot of firsts there. Back in 1985, we had Dr. Hal Henderson, Dr. Gary Roberts, had Georgia governors here, former Georgia governors, Carl Sanders, Lester Maddox, Ernest Vandiver, Herman Talmadge, all on stage over in the dining hall. It was quite a moment. I was there front and center. In 2010, the Georgia Museum of Agriculture became a part of ABAC. Some of you have been to the Georgia Museum of Agriculture just down the interstate here, and you have seen it. It's a great place for ABAC students to learn about South Georgia of the past. Now it's a part of our campus, not an extension, it's actually a part of the campus, the Georgia Museum of Agriculture. A lot of programs there for elementary school students to learn about how we gain our food, our houses, our clothes. It all starts not from the grocery store or the lumber store, it starts right here in the forest in the lands of Georgia. In 2018, ABAC, Bainbridge State College over in Bainbridge merged with ABAC, So now we have a campus in Bainbridge as well as Tifton, with about 4,000 students at those two campuses spread across South Georgia. Bainbridge is about 2 hours from here, but Bainbridge State College became a part of Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. One thing we did during the 100th birthday of ABAC, we put a time capsule filled with ABAC memorabilia inside this wall here. So when all of you who will be here on February 20th, 2108, when ABAC celebrates its 200th birthday, I want you to open this wall and look at that time capsule. I will be walking the streets of gold in heaven, but you will probably be here. You can look inside there and see what we put in there in the time capsule back in 2008. This is the second floor of Tift Hall. Just to my right here is the President's Suite. As all of you know, the President of ABAC, Dr. Tracy Brundage, the first female president in the history of ABAC. How about that? So she's a landmark setter right there. Done a terrific job as president of ABAC. You're going to see some of the accomplishments of previous administrations. ABAC on the move. Here's when we started our bachelor's degrees, all the way back in, had our first bachelor's degree graduates in 2009. We started our first junior and senior level classes in 2008 during the 100th birthday year. How many of you majored in bachelor's degrees? All of you? Most of you? Yeah. Most everybody in bachelor's degrees now. For a time, we were associate degrees, we were a 2-year college, became a 4-year college, and awarded our first bachelor's degrees in 2009. You can see some pictures. We had our 100th birthday. We opened, how many of you live at ABAC Lakeside? Raise your hand. Yeah. Several at ABAC Lakeside. We opened it with 100 balloons here at ABAC Lakeside. On the 100th birthday, we had fireworks. We actually had a hot air balloon on campus. I was inside the hot air balloon for this particular picture. We opened a soccer field with a soccer copter. We actually pushed soccer balls out of a helicopter hovering over the field when we opened the soccer field over on the south side of the campus. When we broke ground on ABAC Lakeside, I came up with the idea that maybe we'd have a little charge of dynamite. So President Bridges and the foundation president had a little plunger and pushed it down and kaboom! Or kaboom. It was not really a big charge of dynamite, but it was a little kaboom, and it was a lot of fun. For our favors, for the ones who attended, we gave this little stick of dynamite here, and inside was a red hot. So it was a good little party favor here back in when we opened the broke ground on ABAC Lakeside. ABAC houses about 1,400 students that actually live right here on the campus. We draw students from 26 other states, about 27 countries, and also 155 of Georgia's. How many counties does Georgia have? Anybody know? 159. Georgia has 159 counties, and we draw students from about 155 of those. Georgia has more counties than any state east of the Mississippi River. Georgia is also the largest state east of the Mississippi River. The largest county in Georgia is, it's a little test for you, Georgia history, 8th grade. Ware County, it's over in Waycross. The smallest county in Georgia is Clark. Very good, Clark County, where the University of Georgia is located, is the smallest county land-wise in the state of Georgia. So, 2 things for you to remember right there. All the presidents, starting at the first principal of the 2nd District A&M School, right? Dr. Branch was the only president of Georgia State College for Men. Dr. Woodruff, first president of ABAC, right on down the line, all the presidents. And you can see each has a little plaque beside them. It has a bio of some of their accomplishments during their tenure here at ABAC. Eventually, there will be a president of Dr. Brundage, probably go on that wall right there, as the only female president in the history of ABAC. And now she's well underway in her tenure here. Had her investiture ceremony last September and hosted the Board of Regents here last October. So all the presidents of ABAC in this area. Now, what do we use this area for? Well, it's a great place for receptions, and just behind you over there is the president's conference room. When President Brundage wants to confer with her vice presidents or leaders of the college. She uses the conference room here. When she has to host important visitors for lunch, she can use this little luncheon area here. There's a small kitchen right behind me here as a part of the second floor amenities here in Tift Hall. Now, outside on our sun porch out here, we have umbrellas that can go on those tables. You can go out there and see the Golden Stallion, a great view of the Golden Stallion out there. Our previous Golden Stallion is over in front of the Alumni House overlooking Lake Baldwin. You've seen that. And that statue, it weighed about, I don't know, about 200 pounds, something like that. And we had a problem during the 80s. The students kept stealing the statue and putting the horse in all kind of places, including in the lake and also on top of one of the dormitories at that time. Now, in 2012, when we did the buildings here, we got a new Golden Stallion, which is kind of a bronze stallion that weighs well over 1,000 pounds, and nobody's going to move him anytime soon. But he is a great stallion, and the former original stallion over in front of the Alumni House. A lot of great stories there about the students stealing the stallion and having some fun doing it. A big part of ABAC. Some of you go to the Baldwin Players Theater presentation, some of the music presentations that ABAC has here. And ABAC has its own jazz band, concert band, jazz choir, concert choir. We've had a bluegrass band in the past. We have our own newspaper. We have our own electronic version of the newspaper. And all that is kind of showcased here in the arts at ABAC. We had the TABAC, which was the yearbook here at ABAC. Anybody know what TABAC stands for? The Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, TABAC. Had our yearbook until 1987, and should have kept that yearbook. It's a great memoir of things happening at ABAC. The Stallion is an award-winning publication. The Pegasus comes out in the spring. It is a literary magazine, lots of good poems and pictures and short stories and that sort of thing. Maybe some of you would be interested in publishing in the Pegasus. But here's a kind of a description of the music program, the arts program, all the many parts of the arts that we've had here at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. Sometimes when people think of ABAC, they think of only a college that specializes in the School of Agriculture and Natural Resources, which is a big part of what we do, but it's also a school for the arts, for the music, for drama. Lots of things happening here, and many of you have been in Edwards Hall, just down the road here. Edwards Hall, one of the most fabulous music production places anywhere in the state, with the big concert band performing area, the concert choir performing area, lots of things happening over at Ernest Edwards Hall. And this is Ernest Edwards here. Back in 1955, he accompanies the ABAC Girls Trio in 1955, and now the building is named for him, Edwards Hall. Very important part of student life here at the college. ABAC is about to make a very big move. We're going to move from a 2-year conference into a 4-year conference in a brand new affiliation with the NAIA beginning this summer, National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. We've been playing, even though we've been a 4-year college since 2009, we've been playing 2-year colleges across the state. Now we're going to be playing 4-year colleges across the southern part of the United States of America. There'll still be the Golden Stallions and the Golden Fillies, but we're adding 2 new sports, or adding them again. Men's basketball, women's basketball will start play in the fall of 2024. How about the other sports that ABAC has? Men's cross country, women's cross country, women's softball, women's soccer, women's tennis. For men, it's the men's cross country, baseball, golf. Any other sports? Think about it.
Tennis.
Men's tennis, exactly right. An outstanding men's tennis program. ABAC has won 5 national championships, 2 in men's tennis, and 3 in women's softball. So 5 national championships. Mike, have there been any great players in ABAC? Well, I'm glad you asked. Right here, you look at, here he is, Tom Chaney. Tom Chaney led the 1952 ABAC baseball team to the state championship. Great player. He didn't win and pitched in the major leagues. Yeah, major leagues with the Cardinals, the Pirates, and the Senators. He was on the Pirates team that won the 1960 World Series on Bill Mazeroski's walk-off home run. They won the World Series that year. But his greatest day was September 12, 1962, when he set the record, that still stands, striking out the most number of batters in a single game when he struck out 21 members of the Baltimore Orioles in a 16-inning, 2-1 Washington Senators victory. He struck out 21 guys. But remember now, the game was 16 innings. Today, he would have never, as you guys know, or females that love baseball, nobody would ever pitch 16 innings. He struck out 21 members of the Baltimore Orioles, a record that still stands today in Major League Baseball for an extra inning game. And he started right here at ABAC. His name's Tom Chaney. He's in the ABAC Athletics Hall of Fame. You're going to see some of the other pictures here. Back in the past, we hope to regain some of that stallion spirit when basketball comes back and you get over to Gressa Gym with your face painted green and gold and the Rowdies come back. It was a lot of fun when the Rowdies were here, I tell you. Here's some of the alumni of ABAC. Kathy Cox was the first female Secretary of State in Georgia's history. She went on to be president up in North Georgia at Young Harris College. And then she was dean of the Mercer Law School for a bit. Now she's president of Georgia College and State University in Milledgeville, and she was our graduation speaker back in December. And John Ellington is now when I came in '79, he was president of the SGA in '80. He is now a Georgia Supreme Court justice. He will be our graduation speaker this May, so you can look forward to that. He'll do a great job. So we had an American Idol finalist, Michael Lee, who's a former tennis player at ABAC, and he reached the finals of American Idol. So Coach Red Hill, who was the tennis coach, said, I hope he's a better singer than he was a tennis player. He was a very good singer, Michael Lee. Now, here's some of the clubs and organizations. The Fabulous Goldusters were a precision dance team that I was the MC. We ran the high schools and civic clubs all around Georgia and Alabama and Florida, and they performed, and I talked about ABAC in between numbers. Of course, you remember rodeo, you remember our Greek system came into ABAC. A lot of things happening at ABAC, and these are some of the student life pictures of our college. This is the ABAC Freedom Gallery. Well, Mike, what's the Freedom Gallery all about? Well, it's really a tribute to those men and women of the United States, of God Bless America, who have given their lives for this country, for your freedom. Now, the room is particularly devoted to Harold Bascom Durham Jr., American hero. Harold Bascom Durham Jr. received the Medal of Honor for his bravery during the Vietnam War. This is the actual Medal of Honor. It is not a replica. It is not a duplicate. This is the actual medal that was presented to Harold Bascom Durham Jr.'s mother. Look at the date, October 31st, 1969. Vice President Spiro T. Agnew presented this Medal of Honor to Harold Bascom Durham Jr.'s mother. Now, what did Harold Bascom Durham Jr. do? Well, he was a soldier for the United States military. Just behind you, he carried the radio to communicate with the rest of the troops. And this is a replica of what outfit that he might have worn. He and his fellow members of the United States Army were caught in a fight with the enemy, and he saw what was happening. He got all the rest of his folks out of that area. Then he called in a strike, and you can read about the battle here on the wall. And the strike came in, killed a bunch of the enemy, but he also did not survive that particular strike from the airborne. And Harold Bascom Durham Jr., ironically, had already served one tour in Vietnam, and he did not have to go back, but he told his commanding officers that he would go back because he was single, had no wife, no children, in place of somebody who had a wife and children did not have to go back to Vietnam. He went back of his own accord. A month later, he was killed in action. A true American hero, Harold Bascom Durham Jr., a former ABAC student who walked these halls just like you. So it's right here in Tifton. This is a great tribute. And over on this wall, you'll see the Freedom Gallery, those who have lost in service to our country. American Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Indian Wars, the Mexican Wars, the Civil War. America lost the most of any battle, 498,332. The wars going down, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, Desert Shield, and the global war on terror continues to this very day. This is our Freedom Gallery at ABAC. Former President David Bridges and his wife Kim wanted to make sure that ABAC students knew the valiant effort of these Americans that gave their life for the freedom of this country. It's called the ABAC Freedom Gallery. All right, that's going to wrap up my tour for this morning. I hope you've learned something about Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. It is a place that's near and dear to my heart. I've actually worked part-time, full-time or part-time here for 45 years. Who can believe that? But I enjoyed talking about ABAC and the history of ABAC and explaining to you how this campus came to be what it is in the year of our Lord 2024. It's always a great day to be alive at the one and only ABAC. Thank you for your attention today.